Morning, guys.
Morning.
What's up?
Morning.
How y'all doing?
Not bad. Welcome to room 145, everybody. Everybody's weekend is going fantastic. I'm Jordan, here with my two brothers, John and Alex, above us. Just talking about good things, running a little experiment here. It's easy to get caught up in the negativity of the world and have that impact you on a daily basis. So trying to flip the script. What if you focus on nothing but positive things and you talk about good stuff? Will that have a positive effect on your mental state? Right? What's up, guys?
Good morning.
How's your weeks?
Busy. Real busy. What about y'all?
Likewise. John, your wife is here babysitting, so I just heard a little bit about your week. Your Friday, at least. So, yeah, good times. Fun times. But hey, congratulations on the new job.
Yeah, employees out there, know your rights. I'm just going to say that.
Right.
Right.
In
HR's
Ohio,
there for a reason.
Yes, in Ohio, as long as you are involved in the conversation, you are legally allowed to record it.
Ah.
Yeah, right.
And that might be a useful tool. That's all I'll say.
Right.
Interesting.
No question, man. Yeah, busy week as well. I mean, I think that's just you have a freaking 8-month-old. I don't think there's not a not busy day. So,
yeah.
Just managing it.
Like a
right.
Puppy there.
Oh yeah.
Daughter there on the Switch playing Pokemon.
Nice. How's the pup doing?
Good. He's on his way to sleeping in the crate right now. So
yeah. Right
hopefully
on.
that works out. But I'll probably, I'll be in and out depending on, bathroom breaks and what have you.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah, there's of course a chance if Jack needs help with anything, whatever, she's watching the baby, so.
Yeah.
Cool.
I drink a gallon of water every morning and a cup of coffee, so I will definitely have to get up at some point.
Right, no question.
For sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, before we jump too deep in, and because I had to coordinate all this, I am going to get a cup of coffee real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, for sure.
All right. So, Jay, Jacqueline's over there?
Yep. Yeah, because Ray's working this morning, so...
oh, that's right. She had to go in at like 6, right?
Yeah, so she's working, so Jacqueline's coming over so we can do this thing.
Nice.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Cool. I think she's really listening. So...
No, she has left the house. Your baby's just roaming around free, just crawling around with the dogs.
Yo, she's about crawling. It's a pretty cool. It's weird how it develops. It's because it's all just trial and error. So it starts, as getting on their knees, obviously kind of rocking around, and then once they realize they can get places just by barrel rolling through the house, she just rolls to her destination, then she'll pivot and roll so she can get to where she needs. But now she's learning the forward movement, at least. It's hilarious, and it's very, what's the word? Sporadic. Like she just, or erratic, I guess is a better.
Erratic, yeah.
Yeah, because she'll get on her hands and knees and just like pump her legs and flop forward, and it's like so many movements at the same time to move an inch. Yep. It's so funny. But so yeah, that's exciting for the week. She's learning to crawl. Got a lot more, foods and snacks. So that's developing. Ray and I, well, it was a nice day yesterday. So it was like the first time we've gotten out of the house in a while. That was like a refreshing thing. We went to Wildwood and went for
Mhm.
a nice long walk with Iris. So she loves the outdoors. She was chilling, just like I was holding her. She's just there kicking her feet, excited the
Yeah.
whole time, you know.
Is it still pretty cold out there? Like, do you guys still have snow?
There's still snow, but it's been melting over the week because it's been getting into the
Mhm.
upper 30s, then into the 40s, and over this weekend it's been hitting into the 50s. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think it's supposed to hit 50 again today, which is nice. So,
Yeah, that is nice. That's kind of how it's been here,
yeah,
which is strange because we're 8 hours away.
right.
So, so, did you guys get any of the tasks completed this week? Any of the breathing exercises or music or anything?
So I gotta say, so I listen to a bunch of music all the time, but yeah, on the weekly tasks, man, I might have to reassess my level of participation here. I did have, which I thought we could do if you guys want. Um, After last week's episode,
Mhm.
um, the guy that was recommended to us, I can't remember how to say his name. Teak, whatever. Teak Nat Han, I think, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dante, who recommended his girlfriend Megan, ended up sending some content to the Facebook page,
Yeah, I
and
saw that.
I got the video that she sent us pulled up here. I thought maybe we could even watch it in real time on stream here. It's only like 2.5 or 3 minutes long, so it's not long. But real
Yeah.
quick, we did get a follower while we were offline. Um, I'm
Sweet.
going to read it as Dang Lopez, but I know that is Dan G. Lopez.
Dang Lopez.
Dang Lopez, man. So
That-
I know you guys know who Dang Lopez is, so thanks for the follow, dude.
yeah.
Let
He
me,
was such a high performer on a very fateful day in Washington, D.C. that ever since then, when you have a good day, when everything goes well, we call it a Dan day.
Dan Day.
when the
Yeah.
universe
So
aligned.
while you're pulling that up, I'll give you the quick rundown. We went to the Rally to Restore Sanity way back with Jon Stewart and Colbert. So there were
Mhm.
several 100,000 people in the mall at DC, and the show was just about to start. We got there early. We were like, oh, we'll figure we'll find our way in. Come to find out, right in front of the stage requires some sort of ticket we didn't know about. So we're finding weak spots in the security. We're going through. We're moving and we're moving close. Show's about to start, and all of a sudden, those 100,000s of people solidify, and you could like hardly move,
Oh my
um,
gosh.
one way or the other.
It's a
And at that point,
nightmare.
we were kind of split up. Like Dan had disappeared for 10, 20 minutes. No one knew where he was, and you couldn't contact anyone on your phone. There was no cell service because the signals were so conflicting and jammed and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Show starts. We're down on ourselves. We're super high when we get there, and our mood's super low because we didn't accomplish the goal. Show starting, and all of a sudden, my phone gets a message from Dan. He's like, "Oh, and real quick before I say that, we had found a weak spot, and I had gathered the energy of people near us, and we're like, we jump right here, and we all run together.
They can't stop us all.
Catch us all." I did start with that because that's how we lost Dan. We jump over the
Yeah.
fence behind the porta potties, and we start to gather there. But the person
Mhm.
out front blew it, and they ran, forcing everyone to move before
Uh,
we were ready. I got caught, Aaron got caught, Dave got caught, we all got caught. But Dan, I'll never forget this. I see Dan. Dan's not fast. He's not a sprinter.
He's a heavy-footed runner, that's for sure.
He's running, and I see him. He's like tearing his jacket off. If he's got a hat, he's like removing clothing as he's running so that he appears different should he not be found, which ended up working because, like I said, we got kicked out. Show starting. Text from Dan. I'm inside. I got all of you tickets.
what?
What?
How'd he get
And
you tickets?
we go back to kind of where we snuck in, and Dan, Dave, and Aaron and whatnot, the other people we were there with, go to the entry to the front of
Yeah.
the stage. And I grabbed the tickets from Dan and I give them to them. We walk in completely fine. And we were like, Dan, how'd you pull that off? He had gone, because other people were sitting on the ground and whatnot. He had like lifted the tickets from people that
What?
were already inside. And
Oh, that's awesome.
we recycled them.
Yeah. Double
and got
down.
into them. And
Glorious.
we were like less than 100 feet from the stage for that great show and all that. And then as we're dispersing, we're like, oh, we should get some food. Little did we made no thought went into this whatsoever. Just a bunch of dudes, no forethought.
Winging it. Just winging it.
Right.
And so we like walk into this Italian restaurant. Hundreds of thousands of people just left. This is like a mile away. Oh, we're gonna get a table. They were like, it's gonna be like a 6.5 hour wait. Yeah, that makes sense. Again,
Wouldn't you just be closed by then?
again, Dan has gone missing. We saw him talking to like a hostess, and and then we like lost him. He went behind. He was like working in the restaurant at one point in time.
He was running expo for him.
I swear. And so we left. We just started walking down the street, and then the hostess chased us down the street, and we were like, she's like, we got a table for you.
Dude.
Didn't wait, nothing.
Unbelievable.
And did her a favor, like did part of her job or something, and she hooked us up with a table, the middle table underneath their biggest piece of art. I swear to God, it was like the best table in the whole
Wow.
Wow.
We didn't have to wait, didn't have to do that. Dan did both of those things, so we were like, that's a Dan day from now on. When you can coerce the universe.
Yeah, when the stars align.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've never heard that story. That's great.
I thought there was one detail in there about how he got you guys in. Didn't he get a hold of like a security vest? Like he was posing as security?
He might have.
I feel like I've heard that from Dave or something.
Maybe that's what he did to like talk to people to check their tickets. I have no idea.
This is like one of those stories that starts off the way John told it, and then like
it
as
just
it
has
gets
mutated.
passed along,
Yes.
he's like up on stage with the performers. He's grabbing
the
mic.
He introduced Lady Gaga. What?
Right.
He ripped his jacket off, and below were wings, and he flew.
That's it for sure. Hey, good morning, Taz, man. How we doing?
Morning.
Yeah, you can throw that video up there for sure, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, okay. And let me get this set here then. So this is Thich Nhat Hanh, How to Dwell Happily in the Present Moment. It's all about kind of conjuring happiness, right, within yourself. Kind of the conversation we had last week, where the gratitude, if you fake it till you make it, you make it, right? It does work.
Mm-hmm.
That key.
That's why forcing a smile is actually useful,
right?
And fake laughing. See? You eventually get there.
All right, so you guys should be able to see. I'm gonna throw this in.
Yeah.
Make sure the volume's up.
So that's my man Teak there, huh?
That's it. You should be able to hear as well. I've got the audio sharing to you guys.
I don't know why I imagined a big gray beard.
3.5 minutes.
You are fully present. You can touch the beauty deeply. And that is very nourishing, very healing. The beauty is everywhere. But if we are too busy, we don't have the time to enjoy the wonders of life that are available around us and inside of us. Suppose you are standing with a group of people, and in front of you there is a beautiful sunset. If you have worries, anxiety, and fear in you, if you keep thinking about the future, if you keep thinking about the past, and then you are not free. and the beautiful sunset is not for you. It's for other people who know how to be fully present in the here and the now. So you are thinking of calling someone, talking to someone, and you are caught in your anxiety, your fear, your sorrow, your business. You are not truly there for the beautiful sunset. So the practice is to free oneself from the regret, the sorrow concerning the past, the fear, the anxiety concerning the future, and bring your mind back to the present moment in order to get in touch with the many conditions of happiness that are already there. And that is for our nourishment and our healing, because all of us need some nourishment and some healing. Most of us believe that happiness cannot be possible in the here and now. That is why we long to go to the future or somewhere else to look for some more conditions to be happy. According to the teaching of the Buddha, happiness is possible in the present moment. And you have enough conditions to be happy right here and right now. If we know how to bring our mind back to our body and become fully established in the here and the now, we will recognize the many conditions of happiness that are already there. And you can be happy right away. And this is the teaching of the Buddha, called Drishta Dhamma Sukha Vihara, dwelling happily in the present moment.
So,
Right.
two
Wow.
things that I shared that TED Talk from the Shaolin monk of German origin the other day.
Yeah.
And the initial thing was the pace at which that man spoke just now. I appreciate it. There's something about that there's a clarity that seems to be present there. And it was funny, I showed it to Jack, and that was the first thing she noticed, and she was like, it's taking him so long to say everything. But to me, that was a positive. And so that was the first thing I noticed. And the second thing, the sunset, I think, is a one-to-one. You have, if you look at a more modern, a more 2021, modern technology analogy would be going to a concert.
Yeah.
And videoing by your phone. If you're doing that, the concert's no longer for you, just like the sunset's no longer for you.
Right.
Who are you doing that for? Even if it's just for you in the future, you're no longer, again, that concert's not for you, that sunset's not for you, which is why I've never, ever been a person to care about nor even take pictures. Even when I'm in what other people would call the most, I've been in beautiful places, Iceland was the greatest example. It's just untapped nature in almost all of its forms. And you could literally take a picture every 5 seconds in any direction, and you'd probably blow some people's minds.
All desktop wallpapers.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. And but why? Who's that for? I don't think that question even gets asked internally or externally. But I thought that sunset was if you look at concerts now or before 2020, that seems a clear 1-to-1 for me.
This is how people watch a concert.
Yeah, through their phones.
Yeah.
Even comedy shows.
Yeah.
We went and
Yeah.
saw Seinfeld in Toledo, and the woman in front of me was 80 plus in age,
Mm.
and she could not stop with her phone the whole time. Light hitting us in the face. I had to touch an 80-year-old woman on the shoulder to tell her to stop using a device
Wow.
at a comedy show. Like,
Jeez.
who's that for?
Yeah,
You know?
seriously. What are you
What
going
are
to go back and watch that later?
Right.
Right.
Just
It's not going to be
laugh.
funnier than it is there.
Well, in
No.
comedy's a whole nother beast because nothing is funnier from
No.
a stand-up point when
sure.
you're there in the moment. I mean, that's how humor hits you.
Right. And that
Yes.
punchline in the now,
Right. And
that's when it's effective.
And responding to it with the audience and the crowd feeding off that 100%.
Right.
I have to step away for 30 seconds.
You're good.
Iris this is the first time she's woken up to a different person, so she's not exactly happy about it. So I'll be back in 2 minutes.
I'll
Okay.
just keep on that Seinfeld thing. Even when that lag time between picking up your phone and hitting a button in comedy, like I said, especially, you
Yeah.
miss so many details in the way that the person's moving and the way they're speaking.
Yeah, or their facial expressions, you're missing that by doing this. And then
Right.
by the time you get them into view, the punchline's already there, or you've missed a vital part.
And
So
then you're doing a fake laugh for the camera, you know?
Right. Right. But and that's a good point you brought up a second ago, is who is that for?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to be showing that to other people? Because there's, no matter what live show you go to, somebody else is recording it and putting it on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's like some weird, obscure, like basement show, which I guess I kind of get recording it to like boost the popularity of the band or whatever. But big shows, there's somebody else recording it.
Right.
So if you want to watch it later, just go on YouTube. It's there.
Well, and even if you didn't want to watch that show in a different place in the world was probably recorded. So
Yes.
right,
Exactly.
using the same notes or what have you.
Yeah.
So it's really weird. It's maybe that goes to the social media phenomenon of wanting to prove your life is that much more exciting, maybe
Yes.
to yourself and to others. But
Yep.
that's how
No,
when I listen to that, that's what hit me.
I do. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I do understand though, like if you go to a live show, you know, say you've been following a band for years and you get there and, you know, they're setting up or whatever, and you take a few pictures. I don't think there's any harm in that. Like
Right.
taking 1 or 2 pictures while the show is going on, whatever. But you're paying for an experience. You know, you're paying to be in the crowd, to dance, to, you know, see the lights, hear the music, you know, feel it. It's a waste of time and money if you're just sitting behind the mosh pit with a phone like this. You
Yeah.
might as well not go.
Yeah. Well, and what if you just extended that, instead of you paying for an experience, you just took that same methodology and that mindset toward every moment of every day? Because every time you do that, like he said, you're lacking the present moment and your place in it. And anytime you're not in the present moment, you are altering your body chemistry and your attention in probably a negative way.
Yeah, and you're thinking about either something you have to do later on or something that maybe happened a day or a week ago. You know, it is hard. I mean, even people that are completely with it, people that focus on being in the here and now, it's hard to be in the here and now because there's so many distractions, there's so many responsibilities that you have to take care of and things you feel condemned about in the past that you don't want to dwell on, and it's hard. But he's right, in order to be truly happy, you do have to know how to focus on the here and now, focus on the sunset.
Yeah, that was a direct relation to that Shaolin monk talk I shared. Again, if you go to room 145 on any of the social media platforms,
Mhm.
you'll find it there. But he said you need to structure your life in such a way to eliminate the ingress of what he was calling the 5 hindrances, but it's basically just the things in the outside world that affect your ability to be in the here and now. But then he followed that up immediately with, but if you fail to do that, if your life isn't structured in that way, like most of us aren't, right? Most of our lives aren't structured to eliminate distractions. We have more distractions now than ever. But he then said, if you fail to do that, there are techniques you can use to, either get back to the here and now or fight off those hindrances. So that's what I thought was really cool. And obviously this individual we just watched that video for would probably be on the same wavelength that, obviously structure your life so that you can watch the sunset and be present in it. But should you get a phone call when the sunset's going on, coming down, and you need to be able to address that with techniques, whether breathing, whether you have other means of pulling your attention where you'd rather have it.
Yeah.
There are ways to do that, even in a busy life. So that's one of the things we try to highlight, I think, or we continue to try to highlight on this channel for sure.
It's unfortunate that so many people in like high stress jobs, I'm sure you know what it's like. Well, I'm sure everybody knows what it's like to a certain extent, but if you're doing something like you were talking about last week, if you get into that, what'd you call it? That flow state.
Yep.
If you get into a flow state, you are in the here and now, but you're doing it so that your future is easier. If that makes any sense. You're cramming a bunch of stuff in the here and now, not focusing on yourself, focusing on making the future easier so you don't have to worry in the future.
Well, and that might just be a consequence, honestly, if you are maximizing your ability to enter into a flow state, you probably don't have to worry about your future, right? If you're spending most of your time doing that.
What is it?
No,
what was that? Is that a monster?
It's coming from Jordan's.
That's so scary. What was that?
Oh, I can. Oh,
we can definitely hear it.
Yeah. I muted my mic on the stream.
No, you didn't.
No, you can hear it. The stream can't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, that's that's Murdoch.
For anybody that didn't hear that, it was Jordan just had a black screen, and all we heard was like Muck from Pokemon just like spitting sludge everywhere.
Yeah. There,
it's still going on.
You might have heard that one. Yeah, that's Murdoch. That's what a 160-pound dog choking on his water sounds like.
Choking on his water?
That was the worst. That was the worst sound ever.
Man, this has been getting totally derailed. So yeah, Iris was not. All right, dude. Come on. This is outrageous.
That's number 6, I think. Holy, incredible.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's fine. He's just not smart. I left the dogs in here with me today because, I didn't want them barking or whatever at Jacqueline while she's here out there. And Iris was not. She was like, why is a different person here when I'm waking up? So
you are not mom.
Yeah, she was like, have I been kidnapped? But she calmed down when she saw me, so I had to whatever.
Good.
But
yep, we just essentially continued that conversation.
The conversation on how to be present and focus on one thing and not have to dip away in that conversation.
Yeah. It's almost ironic.
Yeah, I know, right? For sure.
Not really, though, because you can maintain your presence. I mean, you were present as long as you're present as you stood up and walked to the other room.
Right.
That is being present. So
that is true. He was focusing on the task at the present.
A distraction doesn't necessarily have to be a distraction.
That's true. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
If you even think about it, even specifically within the task. So if I'm doing jujitsu and I get distracted by someone armbarring me,
that is quite the distraction.
Right.
And it needs to be taken care of usually.
React, right.
Yeah.
or my arm hurts. So it's all good. You just gotta consistently stay in the present.
That's it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys already talked about the video and everything, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of a lot of the stuff we've talked about already of just trying to get your mind back with your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's that the Last Samurai quote is just so perfect for it. It's just too many mind, right? That's it.
I did like the way he put that, is get your mind back to your body, because
Yeah.
that is like the perfect way of putting it. Either your mind is in the past,
Right.
or focusing on the future.
That was kind of a standout line from it for me as well.
Yeah.
It
And
fit.
that's like the perfect way of putting it, because you can imagine it. You can imagine your mind
Right.
floating, like coming apart from your body. Because when you're focusing on the past, you're not doing self checks. You're not focusing on your current state, what needs to be done right now. You're focusing on the past, and same thing with the future.
Right. I
Well,
think an easy example of that everybody has probably experienced and can relate to is when you're driving to somewhere that you already know where you're going, or it's a routine drive for you, and then you get there and you're like, you don't remember the drive at all.
How'd I get here?
You were just gone, and then you kind of come to.
I mean, there's a couple of different ways to interpret that, though. What could that also have been a flow state of some kind? Because time disappears when you do that as well. So
Yeah.
Guess it depends on what you were thinking about, right?
Sure. I mean, if you spent the entire time thinking about work on your way to work, that's not really that interesting.
Right.
But you talk about thinking about the past and how you're not taking surveys of your current situation, but it might even be worse than that, because if you're bringing up an event in the past or thinking about something in the future, it's probably going to be something that is going to be associated with something like anxiety or
Negativity.
or something you're worried about. So then you're actually going to probably negatively influence your body chemistry in the present at the expense of something that already took place or will take place. Obviously, that doesn't have to be that way. You could be thinking about a fond memory, but what are you doing now that you need to be thinking about that? That's, maybe that's a way. That was one of the techniques from that monk, was to do that, to survey, to accept, then to investigate, and then to identify. But that would be the investigation part. Why okay, that was cool, but why did I do that? What brought that about? That brings you right to center again. So
right.
I can give just a simple example of like a form of meditation, but without really calling it meditation. Kind of like a few weeks ago when I brought up the whole thing of just looking around the room and calling things as they are and what they do, just super simple like that. When I was a mechanic and I got to the point where I could just rebuild engines, like I might have to glance at the spec book once in a while to, get torque specs or whatever. But for the most part, I was just thinking about what I'm doing in that present moment. Like if you're re-ringing, if you're putting new rings on pistons, it's the only thing you're thinking about, unless you've done it 10 million times. But once you get to that flow state and you're cleaning that surface and everything, that is the only thing you're thinking about. Kind of like you, Johnny, with cleaning. That's the only thing you're thinking about. And that in itself can be the best meditation. And I think, like you said, if you don't have a place where you can get into a flow state, find that place, because it's extremely therapeutic.
Well, and I think that brings us to, the weekly goals, because I think one of the ways you could maybe not do it all the time, but maybe come to see it for the first time would be listening to an album in the dark or what have you, because it just commands a different level of your attention. So
It does.
I listened to a couple new albums, but the one I did in the dark was actually a type of album I've never really done in the dark, but it was a hip hop album, to put it broadly, but it was brass by More Mother and Billy Woods. And it ended up working out really well, because the sounds and the noises and the samples they use were very, and if you listen to it, you'll know what I mean. But they lend themselves to darkness.
Cool.
And
Yeah, I
like,
just wrote it down. I've never heard of that.
so it just came out. So that's
Oh, did it? Okay.
so it's a brand new album. It's very good.
What's it called again?
Brass by More Mother, Moor, and Billy Woods.
Billy Woods.
All right.
Very
Full.
But
I'm gonna put the link to it in the chat.
yeah. So yeah, I mean it's one of the techniques. I mean it's an interesting one to at least try. So that's the one I did. I don't know if you guys did one, or even if it wasn't in the dark, if you tried a new album or whatever.
So I wanted to set out and listen to something that I've listened to a couple songs off of, but I've never listened to the entire album. It's the album behind me, Hendrix in the West. It's essentially just a compilation album of live shows in the late 60s and early 70s, but it was released, I think, like a year and a half after he died. But to me, it has the best Little Wing, Red House, and I Don't Live Today.
All right.
Personally, I mean, I think it has like 15 or 16 other songs. But I started out just listening to Red House because it's my favorite version. And I'm like, I've never listened to the whole album. So I turned it on, put it on my loudspeakers and cranked it to 7. And it's just so intense. Like listening to Hendrix on headphones or like on your phone is great. But if you listen to it with some big speakers, you get that huge wall of sound like he would have had at a live show. It's a completely different experience.
And his live performances are just, I mean, on a whole other level from the recording. Both
He just goes
audibly
off
and,
on these tangents.
yes, and it's when you say that wall of sound and how intense it is in his recordings. Any Hendrix fan out there, Room Full of Mirrors is a biography about Hendrix by, I don't know the author's name, but he specializes in biographies of musicians, and he does deep dives. His investigation of their lives and their careers is really incredible. So deep that he literally found the burial site. Yeah, it's gonna blur you out, but he found
Charles R. Cross.
Charles Cross, right?
Yep.
He actually found the burial site of Jimmy's mom. The family didn't know. They didn't know where she was buried. The earth had overtaken her headstone, so they literally had to, unearth the headstone and find where she was buried. So the author ended up taking Hendrix's current living relatives to that site to find where Lucille Hendrix is buried. So yeah, he's that thorough. But yeah, it's incredible biography about him, and in there he talks about how Jimmy was in the recording studio. He would, have his Marshall stacks cranked up, and at the time people didn't record loud like that, and I don't know if they do currently. Probably less so now. But he would crank it up, and they would have to put the microphones on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
And that's how he would record his album. So it's like, damn, nuts. But yeah, it's an incredible story. His whatever. I mean, Hendrix is freaking god to some.
If you ever watch his live shows, you can see that there is nothing else going on in his head. You can see it in his eyes. The only thing, it's not even like he's thinking about anything. I mean, he's just doing and like falling back into himself. It's pretty rare that a musician gets into that kind of state.
Yeah, that's a true flow state there, no question.
Yes.
Yeah, just in December, this past December, I think.
It was 50 years, right?
This was released. The Live in Maui, Jimi Hendrix.
Oh yeah, I just listened to that. It's incredible.
So he this concert is like a small concert in front of a very small audience in Maui, and it was shot for they did it for a film. I don't remember the name of the film right now, but they just released it as a an actual concert video now, and it's apparently some of his best live performances. It was really close to before he died, but yeah.
Was it for Rainbow Road?
Yes.
Or Rainbow Bridge?
Yeah,
was the name of it? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But I mean, this is the whole audience. I know it's going to be blurry, but that's the whole audience.
There's like 150 people there at most.
Yeah, it was a really small show because it was done for a movie, but yeah, incredible. So yeah, I met the bassist.
New album, Jordan?
Yeah, so I did a couple, but as far as something new that I hadn't listened to before, I listened to the whole Green Lung Woodland Rights album that you threw out to Alex and I. Yeah, good music.
It is.
Yeah, missed one on that one. It's a good listen.
Yeah.
Bangers,
for sure.
as they call them.
Bangers.
Isn't that what the youth say?
The youths. It's fire.
Oh my god.
I also listened to I did a couple full Ozzy live shows, the Live and Loud. It's fantastic. And then the Live at Budokan, which is a bit more recent, but both of them are with Zakk Wylde. And then I listened to another one, Speak of the Devil Tour, I think is what it was. But that's with Jake E. Lee on guitar. Good one. Bark at the Moon, Ultimate Sin, that thing. Live shows.
You know, I haven't gotten into Ozzy. Maybe I should. I mean, I've definitely listened to, Black Sabbath and his older albums, but I've never really like taken a deep dive. Maybe I should give that a shot this week.
Start out with Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. I mean, that's what.
And I'm not really like a full Ozzy fan or what have you, but what gets me with Sabbath is Bill Ward for sure.
Yeah.
More than anything is the drummer. It's just when I focused in on the drumming as the primary point of attention, I enjoyed Sabbath much more than I had ever before. And I didn't do that until like last year. I had listened to Sabbath so many times in my life, but I never got it the same way until I was like, oh wait, that's why.
That whole all four of them, man. I mean, I'm Tony Iommi is, I mean, unmatched.
So then we had the breathing exercises, and what was the other one?
Paying it forward.
Paying it forward. Yep.
So my paying it forward, I actually, it wasn't something locally done, but it's a good cause, and I mean there is some selfishness involved in it, but I'm still giving. One of the YouTube channels that I watch for guitar is the Andertons Music Company in the UK, and they are doing a raffle. They have 18 guitars from their store that they feature on their show on their YouTube channel that they're giving away, that you can basically buy raffle tickets for, and the proceeds go to a teen cancer foundation in the UK. So I bought a couple raffle tickets. So I probably won't win a guitar, but
well, whatever. The little one that I did, so the Harris Teeter that I go to, it's like a Kroger down here. There's always this lady standing at the corner in between the Harris Teeter and the Burger King. And she's a super nice lady, and I don't really know her story all too well. She just, stands there and holds a sign. And the one day it was pretty much pouring down rain and like 45 degrees. And she was standing out there, no umbrella, just a hoodie. And that to me made it seem like, okay, maybe this is legit, because if somebody's just standing out there because they don't want to work, they're not gonna stand out there in the rain, in the cold. But if they absolutely need the money, they're gonna be sacrificing, standing out there for 8 hours in the cold rain. So I went in, got a couple of groceries and stuff, and I had a 20 in my wallet. I forgot I even had it, really. So I just drove past, handed it to her out the window, and drove on. I don't really know what she did with the money. I don't really care. It just felt right at the time.
Nice.
Right on.
Yep.
Yeah, isn't that unfortunate that the first thing a lot of people, and obviously I think we're all guilty of it, is when you see someone out there with a sign, it's not compassion first, it's probably just questioning.
Yeah, skepticism first for sure.
Well, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people have ruined it for the legitimate people.
Right. It's because
Well-
it's too frequent that you see, you can see the transition of the people that are working it. When you're at that shift
Mhm.
change and you notice it, like they get picked up in a car and they drop someone else off. You're like,
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
and that just highlights something about our psychology, that we're willing to indict the majority for a minority.
Right.
Mhm.
We, all animals, are really, 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 really worried about cheaters. We're programmed for it.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the ways in which we overcome one another in mating and for reproduction and genetic success are cheating the system, right? So we have many modules and many systems that are aimed to detect that. And once it's detected, it's disliked, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And it doesn't help that we have, let's say, leviathans in modern times that amplify the sound and the frequency of those modules to make it
Yeah.
even more substantial and even upwards of hate.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go right into some of the things we learned about the food bank off of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I want to make sure we give that enough time. And honestly, depending on how our conversation goes today, it might even be something we can continue on next week, because I guess I'll kind of start.
Well, hold on 1 second. I need a break. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So John and I visited and toured the SeaGate Food Bank in Northwest Ohio. Brittany was our tour guide, right? Brittany was her name.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable, very passionate about what she was doing there.
Super knowledgeable.
We'll get into more of kind of her and the staff there. But I think the immediate takeaway, as John and I were leaving, we were both on the same page of in agreement that the people doing this work are clearly another level of compassionate than the average, no question. And that we left almost angry that it's very clear, it became obvious immediately that there's really not a strong effort from a high level to solve this problem. And that, like I said, that became immediately obvious. So I actually do have, I was going to just, as we were talking, I was just going to let a slideshow of the pictures I took there run.
Yeah, I mean,
And then we can kind of just talk about things. But
yeah, I like that.
all right, let me, I'll get the slideshow going here.
And some of the obvious, while you're doing that, metrics for evidence that this isn't really appreciated work is that the wages of these individuals and even of the people that held power in these places are not adequate. So that's one.
Mhm.
And two, this food bank, this operation, has 13 full-time employees.
Yeah.
The
13.
rest
That's
of it, the rest of it is volunteer work. And
Holy
right
cow.
now, because of COVID, and this is one of my biggest points of frustration with the whole process, is we walked into this other building which serves as a soup kitchen of sorts,
Mhm.
from Tuesdays to Thursdays, and that target veterans, one, and then this organization called First, which is essentially targeting families or individuals that are parts of families that are dealing with recovery of some kind. So we go into this building and we're told from Brittany that the National Guard is there. My initial reaction was I actually was a kind of a shockingly positive one. There was no questioning of any kind. Immediately, I moved to, that makes a lot of sense. That would be a permanent fixture. That the National Guard would just be here all the time performing this work. So maybe that's why 13 employees are all they need.
Yeah.
But we came to find out really quickly that a very limited amount of National Guard individuals were there, maybe 3 or 4 at the time, what have you, unloading trucks, moving these pallets and whatnot. But that's only because of COVID. The National Guard is not mobilized on this fight or in this battle on a day-to-day basis outside in normal operation, right?
Mhm.
So hearing that was very frustrating, especially when you heard more of the figures that most of the people serviced by this food bank are elderly, again, veterans,
Mhm.
and people impacted by
Disabled.
circumstance that are outside of themselves, right?
Yeah.
And just down the road from this food bank, there is an organization, and I'll get the name in a second, that is exclusively for children.
It's the Aurora Gonzalez.
Yeah, right near here, this very same problem, but is directed toward it solving those issues for children, right?
Mhm.
So, and again, this whole bit place, you're seeing all these images, normal operation, 13 full-time employees,
It's
and
insane.
volunteer work is the rest of it. And the volunteers are largely elderly, again. So it's elderly individuals basically helping feed other elderly individuals. And I mean, and that's not exclusively what's happening, but that's a large portion of it. And
Right.
that's incredibly frustrating. Obviously there are schools initiatives involved, and actually St. John's, it sounds like, has a contract of sorts with the SeaGate Food Bank of Northwest Ohio, where every single day, I think she said there are 2 students that are there. But then again, 2 students, the same 2 students, if you're assigned to a day, and you do that for the year. So there are schools obviously helping to address this issue. But again, if no volunteers showed up, and this warehouse you're seeing images of right here, this is the one that serves as a food bank. As you're looking down the hallway, that's looking at the one that serves as a food bank
Serves
from
as
2000.
serves as like a pantry. This whole thing's a
Sorry,
food bank. Yeah, so they actually are serving the public out of that space there. Go on.
yeah. Um, if no volunteers showed up, that's run by one person,
Yes.
Wow.
one woman over the age of 45, let's say. One person, if no volunteers show up.
Now,
Yeah.
is that typical, or is that just because of the circumstances right now?
No,
That's
that's yeah, that's their
That's typical.
staffing. That's what they have. So they live and die by volunteers. Luckily, I mean, we asked a lot of questions while we were there, and Brittany was extremely knowledgeable and answered most of our questions before we had to ask them. But luckily, they don't struggle for volunteers. They do get a lot of church groups, schools.
Mhm.
Like John said, some of them are there regularly, but they'll have different, initiatives from local schools that'll go there and volunteer, and other people, like John said, a lot of it, Brittany said, are elderly or retired folks that are just basically trying to do something nice and get out of the house and stay busy and productive and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So, um, Yeah, so this food bank is one of 13 in Ohio.
In all of Ohio.
All of Ohio, there's 13 of these. This is the only independent one, and it serves 8 counties. So there's 13 people running an operation that provides food for hungry people for 8 counties.
And not just food, and to the food point, she said they regularly distribute 17 million pounds of food a year.
Wow.
Right. I'll kind of go through this. I'll start at
Yeah,
the
we can take
beginning
it picture
here, and
by
then
picture,
then we'll kind of talk about what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So these pictures that we're going to be looking at here, these white boxes with the orange labeling that you're seeing to the right, and all these wrapped pallets. These are all boxed like this, like you're seeing there, by hand, by volunteers. Right now, it's all being done by the National Guard because of COVID. They can't have the volunteers. They can't have the people coming in. So I think they had 3 or 4 people from the National Guard, which is still on a voluntary basis. They're not required. The National Guard can people in the Guard can volunteer to do this work. Which the handful that we ran by seemed, pretty happy to be there, which was cool. They were all in good moods, but one other thing to point out with that is that provides, which Brittany pointed out, a few, young, fit, very able-bodied people that are able to get this work done in a much more efficient manner, than relying on senior citizen volunteers. So, it's great for anybody. I don't want to make it sound like they can't get things done, but again, to our first point is it's very clear that there's no high level effort being put to really solve this problem. So these boxes are put together. They get a handful of items, and these are all for senior citizens. These boxes that we're looking at here. So they're boxed.
So they're like little care packages?
Yep. So they'll get like pasta, milk, juice, a protein, some canned veggies. What else? I think I had some cereal.
Yeah, I got it written right here actually. So they service 400 pantries, senior centers, soup kitchens, like you said, in 8 counties. It's usually 2 boxes of cereal, 2 juices, 2 milks, can of protein of some kind, and 8 total like fruit and veggie cans. And then you see the two things of spaghetti, and then depending on what they get, maybe 2 things of peanut butter, or as you see there, it looks like
this one was beans.
Yeah, beans. So one thing maybe that obviously COVID brought about a loss in personnel and volunteers and whatnot, but the other side of that, so you've lost hands to touch these things, but just in that first program, like I said, which is aimed at individuals belonging to a family of some kind that are dealing with an issue of recovery or something like that. There was a 300% increase in individuals for that program in their attendance during COVID at this location.
Yeah.
300% increase. So the need shot through the roof, and
the resources
plummeted, right? Which is one of the reasons why we wanted to target a food bank in the first place, because not that we were aware or whatnot, but we were paying attention enough to think that obviously the need might be there. Yeah, you can go on. That's essentially what those boxes contain, though.
Yep. So all of these, you can kind of see. I don't know if this will let me zoom in and you guys can see it. Yeah. So they're labeled there, National Guard, and dated. So these are all being wrapped by those folks, which is great and would be fantastic to be a permanent resource for them. The people working there, Brittany was talking about how helpful having them is, and so again, all of these boxes are strictly for senior citizens. That's what these are all going to. This is all one floor of one of the buildings. So this is, if I come out of the elevator to my left, that's what you're seeing, and I'm kind of panning across to the right. So all of these are senior citizen boxes. As we move, I'll go to this view first. This the
Too busy,
SeaGate.
Jordan.
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here. You guys
no.
hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
we hear you.
Okay.
You bet.
So this FoodBank also was doing they do it every year, a pajama fundraiser, basically, where they gather supplies like coats, blankets, socks, pajamas. Some of them, might be little stuffed animals for kids, depending on where they're going. And
Yeah,
again,
I gotta look for that real quick if you want it, because it's been going for 10 years, this program.
mm,
And it's, like you said, pajamas, books, stuffed animals, toothbrush, soap, toothpaste. That's essentially the mainstays.
right. And this project this year had to be. Oh, Sharon's gonna join. Hold on
Oh,
1
cool.
minute. So Sharon is gonna join us. She's actually a volunteer from. Well, I'll let her tell you. So, I'm going to.
But she's aware of this organization and
Yep.
is
I'm gonna
involved
bring
in
her
that.
in, and hopefully this works for us. Let me
Hey,
stop
Sharon.
presenting.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Sharon.
It's a great mission you guys started doing. That is a good place.
Excellent. All right, let me give me 1 second here. I think I've got us set up on the stream. Yes, perfect. So that worked. This was on a a whim, hoping that would come together.
Yes, well, you can imagine
Wow.
who I came to. Technical help.
Very glad to have you. So Sharon, if you would, just I guess let us know kind of where the organization you're involved with, and how long have you been helping them out?
Well, I am with St. Martin de Porres Claver House, it's on the corner of Bancroft and Detroit, and it used to be called St. Anne's Parish years ago. And this this food bank or food service was started at St. Teresa's years ago, and then St. Teresa's was sold. So at that time, Father Marty Donnelly was at St. Anne's, and it became St. Martin de Porres, and he moved the Claver House to the basement of the church. So that's where we've been ever since. I started in 2012. I went there with my brother, who needed somebody to fill in for him because he was going away at Christmas. And then he went and moved to Florida, and I've been there ever since. So
Permanent fill-in.
yeah. So, but there's SeaGate Foods has been very good to us. I mean, I can call Rick, who is the person that takes our orders, and set up a time. And if my person that's supposed to pick it up can't do it on that date, I can just call him and he'll reschedule. If you've been to SeaGate, then you see how the trucks are lined up for the pickups. So the pickup person, because they have to load it all themselves. They'll
Wow.
put it on a dolly or they'll put it at the edge of the thing, but that person has to load it. So most of the volunteers are my age. So we have to kind of pick and choose. The guy that has taken over Claver House so for us is still in his 50s. He's been a stay-at-home dad. So he's fine with getting any of that in his truck.
Yeah.
So,
Very good. Yeah, Brittany did let us know about that pickup process for the pantries and things that they kind of service. They talked about the line. It wasn't there when John and I were actually at the facility, but she did describe it to us and exactly kind of what you're talking about. So, so what made you stay for what you said 2012? So yeah, we're
9
Yeah.
years.
yeah.
well, once you retire, your life is a little different, and it's great to meet new people as far as the volunteers. I've always been one, though, that stays in the kitchen cooking.
No kidding.
I can attest to that. Yeah.
So that's just been kind of my thing. I mean, I'll go out in front if we have to have somebody fill in out there or something, because how our operation ran before COVID, we would start at 6:30 in the morning, and at 6:30 they'd be able to get toast and cereal and milk and peanut butter and jelly and that kind of stuff. By 8 o'clock, we had out full casseroles and soups and breads and desserts. That they got a full meal at 8 in the morning, and we were open from 6:30 until 10. Once COVID hit, we couldn't do in-person serving. So we started doing lunches 5 days a week where we would supply at least like 50 bag lunches that they would receive at the door. And one of our client volunteers always takes care of the door. So none of the people, a lot of people dropped off real quick that down and volunteer. They didn't want to take the chance. So we've been continuing during the summer. We started in June. Every Friday we serve a hot meal now. So on Fridays in the summer until I believe we did it till late October, we served hamburgers and hot dogs that were grilled upstairs. And then they would still get a casserole with that we brought up. So it's a need that's definitely there. I think sometimes that, we can all look at people and think you really need that, but there are a lot of working poor. And that I think has been really noticed through this whole pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely been amplified. And I'll ask a question, but before, one of the first things you said is that the individual you contact at the SeaGate Food Bank in Northwest Ohio, you essentially provide some sort of itemized list, and then they fulfill that order and you pick it up, which is some of those pictures we were showing initially of the warehouse and whatnot. That's what you're seeing in there, and that's a lot of what happens at the SeaGate Food Bank in Northwest Ohio. Is they're a fairly substantial distribution center of sorts. But so yeah, I just wanted to corroborate that for sure.
Right.
That
When we put our orders in, they have what's available every month.
yes,
So we may not get the same thing every month, and we haven't had a need for a lot of the things that we used to get, like the cereal and that, because they're not coming in. Now, the one that's in charge hopes to do what he calls a soft opening in April that will start back, but he's got to see first how many volunteers. It takes at least 4 to 5 volunteers a morning to be able to do what we used to do. And we're down to, I think there's about 8 of us, counting the people that are making lunches for us on specific days. So maybe once the vaccine has been received, our numbers will go back up.
Right.
Yeah. I think it was also really interesting and instructive. One of the things you said, and I think it's overlooked, is that a population of people that are being serviced by these entities are, as you describe them, the working poor. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about this entire aspect of life where people think that if you're receiving something, that must mean that you're doing nothing at the same time. And I that's one of the main things I would like to just try to combat actively are those misconceptions. A lot of people, whether they are elderly or younger, just because they're receiving something doesn't mean they're not putting anything into the system of any kind, right? And I don't even think that's a justifiable or a warranted question of any kind to begin with, but I know that misconception exists, and I think it needs to be fought against for sure.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like I said, the immediate takeaway leaving there was the resources being put into this. So actually, on that point, Sharon, you said that it's basically run by volunteers. Does the Flavor House have any actual like full-time paid staff or anything like that, or is it all a voluntary thing?
It's all volunteer. All volunteer. So, and we've been very blessed this year. The Flavor House has with donations. So our spending has been up because we have to buy a lot of things that SeaGate can't give us. So that has been up, but we've had a lot of donations directly to Flavor House, which has been good. I think across the board, a lot of places are getting more donations.
It's good.
Than we had before.
What are some of those items that are in need that you're not able to get from the food bank?
We get bread from Churchill's, but it's all their day-old bakery bread. So that doesn't last very long. So we have to buy bread every week. And I usually SeaGate's given us blueberries, so I've made jam for the peanut butter and jelly. But the other items we need are like the containers to send the casserole out with, the soup containers, napkins, just kind of all the essentials, plasticware, which we never used before. We always, when we were full running, we washed everything by hand.
Yeah.
So it's the difference of the items that you would use that we didn't have to use before.
How many? Hey, we just got a follower there. Slez1202. Thanks for the follow.
Thank you.
What would you say, or how many hours would you say the average volunteer is giving to that organization a week?
Now? Or
Yeah,
now
Now
and normally, I suppose.
Yeah, now the guy that's in charge, he goes just about every day. So I
Mhm.
would say at least 2 hours a day. And the rest of us on Fridays were there 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. And then Andy and I, who's the guy that's in charge, do our soups at home. So it's really kind of hard to determine. Each day had their own, in the past, what we hope to get back to, each day had their own crew chief and like 4 other people. Somebody would do dishes and
Yeah.
people would serve. And so those, and then on average, that would be 3 hours a day for each of those volunteers. So now it's kind of between, like myself, I'm there on Wednesdays and Fridays. So it's probably, with making soup at home, maybe 8 hours a week. So
And you said
Yeah.
how many volunteers are? I guess during COVID and normally, how many volunteers do you guys normally have regularly?
At least 4 to 5 a day, 5 days a week, and each day had their own crew, which I never even met some of them till we had a celebration of I'm trying to think. The Claver House patron saint is, I'm not sure of his name anymore. I can't remember it. But anyway, we had St. Martin de Porres did a mass and a luncheon after, and then I met some of the other volunteers. But they are almost now. There are a few that are still in their 60s, but most of them are in their 70s, some in their 80s.
Oh, wow.
We're wondering who's going to come back afterwards. That's our big thing of opening.
Right.
And if we open, Andy and I don't want to be there 3 days a week doing all the cooking.
Right.
So,
Well, and especially during COVID, which, is a higher risk factor for older folks. So, yeah, I mean,
Sure.
it is a. Hey, thanks for sticking it out, Sharon. I mean, I know they appreciate you.
Doing good things there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sharon doesn't back down from a whole lot.
oh, I don't know.
So, do you have any? I guess before I ask that question, how can people get involved? What's the is volunteers the biggest need that they have?
Yeah, I would say volunteers definitely are. Just get a hold of me and I'll link you with anybody that's interested in volunteering. And we usually get them through our churches. We have put something in a bulletin in the churches that we're in need. Of course,
Mhm.
that has been nulled in the last year too. Hardly anybody's going to church. So,
Right.
Right. Yeah.
but that's usually where we have gotten volunteers and call-ins. And some people come and they might come one day and say, oh, this really isn't for me for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still something that's sticking with me every time I think about this, and it just keeps getting reinforced is the role of the volunteer, the weight on their shoulders for this entire this need in the world and in the country. It's ever present, right? Which is it brings me back to the National Guard being at the SeaGate Food Bank of Northwest Ohio when we were there. It blows my mind that that's not a mainstay outside of COVID. That it's not they
Yeah.
don't just assign our military budget and our military is so substantial that it seems like we could probably do that, right? If we wanted
Right.
to.
I feel like between
I think we
the
could
guard and the
definitely do.
reserves,
Yeah.
there has to be resources to allocate. Even a couple able bodies make it a huge difference for that
Sure.
organization. So,
Well, and one thing that's also going on there when you have an individual from the National Guard or what have you is that's an individual that has solid benefits and pay and all of those things. And the SeaGate Food Bank in Northwest Ohio and these organizations aren't necessarily known for their funding, right? So
Right.
it'd be nice if we could somehow form a trend toward taking care of these people monetarily for this very important work that never ends, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the thing that Brittany said about all the actual staff members of the food bank, when asked about their involvement, how they got involved with that sort of work, and when we talked about the compensation that the work has, the answer was basically your minimum wage, and you can grow a bit from there, but that the work that you're doing is because you're passionate about it and you want to help the community. So
Sure.
yeah, that's then the amount of people kind of with that mindset or willingness to do that is probably not huge. So yeah, if we took care of the people and made it a priority to solve this problem, like I said, the resources being thrown at this problem are not adequate from
Well,
a
and
high
like you
level
said,
at least.
yeah, and you can go jump in, Alex, after that. But
Yeah.
like you said, Sharon, and you're illuminating is that a lot of this is done, as Brittany mentioned, by faith-based organizations, right? Volunteers at the food bank, and it obviously seems throughout this entire process, from shipment of the goods to the storage to the reception of it to the distribution and then the execution of the act itself is being orchestrated by volunteers that are largely out of faith-based organizations, which is just a detail that I thought was interesting and that you seem to be reinforcing here.
Sharon, I actually had a
Alex is breaking
question and comment.
There he goes.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
up. Yep.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Oh,
So I was curious. I was curious about like newcomer retention, like people coming in maybe for like the first or second time. What are the chances of them, or what is like the percent of them sticking around for months or even years? How often do you see that turnover?
We really haven't had that big of a turnover until COVID. I just had brought one volunteer in, and she said she really was looking for volunteerism. And then after being there, she just kind of, her whole thing was, I'm looking at these people and thinking they're younger. Why aren't they out there working, making a living? And, I go outside and I can smell pot smoke. I said, it's each to your own. If you don't feel comfortable, I mean, I always look at it as I am glad it's not me. I mean, I've been fortunate. And
Yeah.
for some people, that just doesn't work. And that's fine. I think, yeah, we don't know. We don't know what brought these people here. There are some that, back in our kitchen area, we can say, okay, so what's happening with so and so now? We have a couple gals that the one gal just had her fourth child that was taken from her at birth because she's a drug addict. So those are really sad stories, and I don't know if you can ever correct those. The one thing I wanted to mention that SeaGate also did for us this year, we had been operating with a couple refrigerators in our kitchen that every time you went in, it leaked and you had to clean up the mess at the bottom and stuff got wrecked because of the leaking. Well, they called us last spring, and they actually called Andy, and they said, Brittany told him, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions, but whatever you do, say no. And I'm like, he goes, okay. So her question was, do you get food from any other food bank? And we don't. We only use SeaGate now. We used to get it from Northwest Ohio, but when I took over the purchasing, we stopped Northwest Ohio. SeaGate is easier. So we didn't get them until about a month ago, but we got 2 new refrigerators and 2 new freezers. Our other freezer had 10 inches of ice in it. So really, whatever we got meat-wise didn't do too well. I mean, it's like you had it in your ice chest. So these were, I don't know how they got those. It's just great that we got them. And I did talk to her a couple times. She said, during the summer and then I said, are we still getting those? And she goes, yes, I know. It's just kind of crazy. I don't know what the holdup is. But across the country, there was a holdup on refrigerators and freezers. You couldn't get a new one. So, but we were really blessed with that. That really helped.
And in terms of the freezers and refrigerators, you're mentioning some maybe faulty equipment or failing equipment prior. Who was doing that, performing any sort of maintenance work? Is that also just if you guys know handyman or handy
We
woman? Or
no, we have called and we pay for it.
okay,
We have enough money to pay for it and we have it repaired. So
that's
we're
nice.
pretty much under. We
Mhm.
don't have to pay any rent or anything downstairs or pay anything towards the electricity. So we're under the church. So and
Oh, okay.
their mission. The nun that runs the church really wants us to get back to in person. And I keep saying, if we have the people that want to take the risk, because for some reason, the homeless, don't get wearing the mask and staying 6 feet apart. So we really have to get back
Mhm.
to a safe zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that you said that also kind of stood out that I didn't even really think about until you said it. You said the Claver House gets blueberries from SeaGate, and that you actually turn that into jam. So so you as a volunteer, and I'm sure the other folks there doing it as well. Not only are you putting the time to help disperse the food and go through that measures, but you're taking ingredients and cooking and that's a whole other level of I guess effort being put forth by the volunteers that I like I said I didn't even think about. So is a lot of the time that you spend there kind of
No,
doing that, cooking and
and
prepping
yeah,
food?
are we still here? Is it lagging?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's lagging a little bit. I don't know if you guys heard everything I said.
Yep, I heard everything.
I heard
you said.
everything
Yeah,
you
I
said,
did.
but the video's kind of falling out a little bit.
Yep. I've got everybody back here now. So what do you
All right.
is a lot of your time in food prep and actually cooking and
Only what I do at home. On Fridays, we have Corpus Christi Church every other month does a casserole drive. So they will bring us in like 30 to 40 casseroles and they're in the freezer. So every Friday we are serving 4 casseroles. So we've been able to just go off of that because on a normal day, 5 days a week, they'd be serving 4 casseroles. So we would be making those on the days that our crew chief, our crew is in. We'd be making casseroles for the next week. We'd already have the other ones in the oven.
Yeah.
So
pretty good. Awesome. Alex, John, do you guys have any other questions for Sharon?
Do you see that if the vaccines come out soon, say by summer, everything is straight, can you see things getting back to normal at these food banks and the pantries, maybe by winter when it's most crucial to have all these resources for them?
I do. I really think, and I just saw today in our paper that the UAW hall was really going into our African American areas and vaccinating. They vaccinated a ton of people. So at
Good.
the UAW. So they have really, because that's been a big thing. And that's mainly our population at the soup kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so that would be great. If the clients get vaccinated, also that will, bring back our volunteers that we had previously.
Sure, because people wouldn't be as scared.
Right.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Yeah, that's true. I was trying to just feel it out, see how close it would get back to normal.
Definitely can't predict human behavior. That's for sure.
Exactly.
True. That's true.
You mentioned the UAW. You said so. Is that on the volunteer side? That's where you get most of your population, or is that from the?
No. I was just mentioning the UAW because they were doing big vaccine. It was a big.
Oh yeah. Gotcha.
For our Black community.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's good to know too. That because all of these, this is what keeps being my takeaway is that this operation and all of the pieces, the amount of pieces in it is staggering. Period. And it's a much more substantial operation. And again, it's largely composed of people volunteering, which blows my mind. Really, it really does. That this is such a substantial problem that, at least loosely, I think people understand that there are people that are hungry, that there are people that are in need. But the fact that it's mostly being done by volunteers still blows my mind. That's for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Yep.
Yeah. One I guess final question that I had, Sharon, and I don't know if you'll have anything other than an estimate or a best guess, but how many people would you say are regularly are depending on the Claver House for a meal?
At this time, because our numbers are way down, I would say at least 30 to 40. When we do the bag lunches, we'll have some people that will come in and take 4 or 5 bags. So,
Mhm.
I mean, we don't really object to that because we make up 50. So, as long as they've got somebody to give that to, that's wonderful.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
right now, but on an average before, we served at least, I would say, about 50. Now, whether or not we'll be able to go back to that number, and the numbers are down because they can't come in and
Yeah.
that was one of the big things for a lot of our clients was that was their socialization. We had some
Yeah.
times that it wasn't good socialization, but had a couple times where, yeah, I won't go there.
For sure. Very cool. Well, hey, thank you very much, Sharon, for joining us.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you for what you did.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you,
great.
Sharon.
Okay, take care.
Thank
yes,
you.
nice to meet
All
you.
right.
I've
Yeah.
never met you in a sense of.
All right, let me switch us back.
Yeah, if you want to put those pictures back up, I think
Yeah, I'm
we can
going
keep that
to
context rolling.
Get this.
So yeah, I mean, she's again eliminating what I was saying there is that, and as these pictures are going on, it'll just paint a better picture of all that. But again, you think of a food bank, you're just thinking of food, but that's
Yeah.
not. There's people, there's distribution, there are, as you're seeing on the screen, uh, clothing, toothbrush, books, these sorts of things. There are, and as we'll keep going, and I'll bring it up when the picture comes up, or we can talk about it when it comes up. But they're also doing educational programs. This building right
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, one sec. I wanted to show this real quick. So this is like one bag of these sorts of goodies kind of put together for a kid, right? So some stuffed animals, some soap, a toothbrush, a book, PJs.
Yeah.
So that would be like what one person would receive from that sort of project. So yeah,
Yeah.
John, if you want to talk about the Eat Right Academy, which is a really cool thing that this organization also does.
Yeah, so this building's right out in between kind of the warehouses and next to the main office area. And it's, as Jordan said, the Eat Right Academy, and they're doing courses essentially out of this. And you see this is the kitchen area. It's a dual kitchen. It's a
Mhm.
mirror kitchen. That's probably a better way to put it.
Oh,
So they'll
cool.
bring an
Okay.
individual that's willing to perform some sort of exercise, some teaching course, and then obviously there'll be an individual on the other side. So they're doing lessons at this organization as well. And one of the cool things I thought was whatever you cook with, whatever you use, you take home with you. So if you used a utensil, some silverware, or a
Oh,
pot,
really?
they
Huh.
also will provide you with that. So it's a one-to-one, it's a mirrored learning exercise, and then you get to take the materials home with you. And the
I
budget for
feel
this
like
program,
that is essential.
yeah, that's what
I didn't
Jordan.
mean to I didn't mean to cut you off, Johnny, but
No, you're
if
good. That was Jordan.
the people receiving these bags of beans, spaghetti, protein, stuff like that, if you don't know how to prepare that stuff, you're not going to eat it, or you're going to get sick. You know, you know.
Yeah,
Yep, and
the hey, we were kind of talking about that should just be also implemented in the schools. But she said a lot of the people that come in and teach there are either people from the community that just like to cook and know how to cook, or every once in a while they will get a chef from a local restaurant that'll come in
Yeah,
and teach you stuff too. So
yeah. I feel like that's essential. That's really cool.
well, and it goes even further. So you'd think, okay, this building, that's what it does, right?
Mhm.
Um, and even then, you didn't even know this building existed beforehand, and you didn't know what it was when you saw that it was there. So
Mhm.
you walk in, you're told that they're doing these courses, and then you go, well, obviously that's a need too. So we've we've been to 2 buildings and we're going, oh, well, yeah, obviously people need food and there are kids that need clothes and books and a stuffed animal. And yes, people should also have cooking utensils and know how to prepare the food. But then this is just it's basically like a trailer, right? And if you, I don't know if you have a picture of it, you might not. So if you're here and I walk in, I will, Arya, you calm down. You walk in, you go to the right here as you enter, and there's a room at the end of the hall.
Yeah,
that,
I didn't get pictures in there because it wasn't.
no, it's fine. It's just a small room, right? Which serves as a nursery.
Oh,
Yeah. So people coming to take lessons, they have people that'll watch their kids.
Yes, and which this it was shut down for COVID. Okay, so then you're going, okay, so then you got that, and then they're also maybe taking care of kids at the same time, and then Brittany goes on to elaborate because of COVID that wasn't the case. So they hooked up with an organization called SIFT, and they ran an experiment in that room throughout COVID to essentially test which type of light an individual could use indoors to most adequately grow produce or a plant inside, right? Not everyone has a yard, what have you. So they tested various types of light. So they're also they're doing scientific work, right? So we've been to 3 buildings, we're seeing all this need, and again, this is being handled by volunteer work and a very, very, I mean, these buildings are massive.
Yeah, the warehouse is huge.
13 employees, right? And right across, and I don't know if you have a picture of it, but there's a garden.
Yeah, I do have a picture of it. We'll get out there. So this is walking across the street from that building that we kind of just left. There you can see a sign there. You'll see another one, but this is the Veterans Marketplace. We'll get in there in a minute here, but outside of this building to the left, you see that fence is this high-rise garden, where each pole, obviously it's winter, it's covered in snow. You can't really grasp exactly what happens here. And John, maybe if you have some of the numbers on it, but essentially each one of these poles, they set up multiple pots. It's a vertical garden, okay? So they set up multiple pots of plants, different produce, different vegetables, and they wanted to see how much food they could produce in this small area if they went vertically with it. And the idea for this high-rise garden came from the same woman, and I do not remember her name, but she was involved in that SIFT organization John mentioned. She had the idea for hey, let's find out what sort of light someone could buy, which, what was it, a phosphorescent light, I think is what she said was the most effective.
Phosphorus.
Phosphorus.
As like the source of light, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So she had that idea and this idea. So this one woman had 2 really cool projects. John, I don't know if you have any of the numbers. I probably have them written down here, but they were able to basically per square foot of the garden, they were able to 20x the yield from it.
Wow. Yeah, per pole, she said you could put essentially 20 plants on. And what happened, she basically gave us a rough figure. She didn't have it in her head or what have you, but it was essentially they grew over 1,000 plants.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
And I believe I have it written down here that went into that center that you see to the right there, which is the veteran marketplace, where it's largely being received by veterans and those individuals in that first program I was mentioning.
Yeah, and this is getting into that building here. So one quick thing as the food we're looking at here is from Costco. So one of the ways that the SeaGate Food Bank gets their food, a lot of it is government funded, but they also have a massive part of their donations from grocery stores. So Kroger, Whole Foods, and Costco also donate food to this organization. So that's what this food is that we're looking at here. This is from Costco. And this facility, this kind of part of it at least, is the Veterans Marketplace. So they focus on feeding veterans that need help, which is kind of mind-blowing that that problem ever existed in the first place. That this is where we have people that, you know, are willing and do sacrifice anything and everything for us. This is how they're getting fed. And if you see that one person in the back here, right here, she's moving this pallet around. If this is what John was talking about earlier, if they don't have volunteers, she runs this entire operation in this area by herself.
Wow.
And this room is connected via that hallway picture we showed earlier, and we'll see again, I'm sure,
Yeah.
to that
With the
other
garage
warehouse.
doors?
Yes. So
Yeah.
in between there are bays for the trucks, and then
Mm-hmm.
the larger storage warehouse on the opposite end. And as Jordan was saying, they have, you know, Kroger and Whole Foods and Costco obviously hooked them up with some supplies and fresh produce and what have you. And then they're obviously also, as Jordan said, using government programs, which were the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, which is a senior focused initiative, government initiative. And there's also the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and then the Trade Mitigation Program. I had never heard of
I was
any
gonna say
of
all
those.
of which I'd never even heard of.
And the Emergency Food Assistance Program is essentially, that's at least aptly named. You should obviously look up all of these things, but the Trade Mitigation Program is not necessarily, at least at the forefront, an effort to distribute food for the sake of ending hunger. It's basically a subsidizing of American farmers. So the government buys American produce,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that is being purchased, they distribute those goods to food banks and what have you. But the goal of the program is to buy American farmer resources.
Hey, good job, Ari. I got a Lugia.
She got a Lugia. Nice.
Man, the win. So yeah, this this Veterans Marketplace, you can kind of see these are kind of bags of the goods that they would get. It's not just food again. You can see the paper towels there. So most of it is food, but some of them are also just household items that people would need. Again, there's a kind of a close-up of one of the bags that an individual would receive. They also do, during non-COVID times, as Sharon kind of talked about too, the in-person meals, which that can't be a thing right now. So
yeah, they just have the grab bags.
Yep. And this is now moving a bit more into the warehouse part of this facility. So this is like, I guess, it's connected to the Veterans Marketplace, but we're just walking through it now to the other side, which is the warehouse. And you'll kind of get an idea of the scope, okay, of the amount of food that is in here. So you can see these are tall ceilings, pallets, very tightly wrapped with food. And this is a very big facility. I didn't write down the square footage, but there's a lot in here. And Brittany said that they will turn during normal times. She said they have a bit more on hand due to COVID, just because things are what they are. But everything in this warehouse turns in about a week.
A week?
A week. Yeah. So that
I
means,
guess that makes sense though if they service 8 counties.
And now think about all of that with 13 people.
Well, not only that, think about all of that with 13 people, and think about what Sharon just eliminated. So that's the next step. So it's not like the process gets more attention as it continues from here. If anything, it probably becomes more autonomous on the part of the individual and the volunteer. So this warehouse is repopulated, as Jordan said, at that frequency. And then there are soup kitchens and other places in need that are receiving these goods that is also being taken care of, basically out of the goodness of people's hearts, right? Because It's not like we're throwing any
awesome.
real resources at this. So it's obviously the most touching and glorious story of all time, but then it's also the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So it was hard to not just be overwhelmed by it while you're there. And as Jordan said, when
Yeah.
we were leaving, I was actually feeling probably worse than when I went in because, especially in light of the National Guard thing, as Jordan mentioned, this veterans marketplace is servicing veterans. This is a need that is well documented, and all the more reason why the National Guard and the reserves should have a mainstay situation and mainstay skin in the game.
Yeah, servicing your fellow veterans.
Exactly.
Yes, and it would be another way that the government, the Leviathan could step in and right a wrong, or not even right a wrong, but there might not even be much of a wrong at that point if you could just continuously care for people.
Right.
Mhm.
And honestly, I
Yeah.
mean, if I'm being totally honest, even as I think about that, that's still not adequate. That's just like the next step. These people shouldn't be starving, period. So, but yeah, the fact that they are currently, we do need to take that step and provide the resources to make sure that, I mean, this is a across the board human need, right? There's no want in this. There's no luxury in this. This is survival at this point, And with
getting by.
yeah, with COVID impacting so many food pantries and soup kitchens and things like that, a lot of them are shut down. Even like a homeless shelter here in Toledo called the Cherry Street Mission, which they serve food to people that need it. But with COVID, they're only feeding people that are currently staying there. So their operation is drastically reduced with the amount of people that they're able to help. And Brittany, I asked that question to Brittany as, hey, what's happening to those people then? And essentially, they have to figure out transportation now to another location that may be farther away, or so it's not good. The environment for this is really, really rough right now.
Well, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Food security or food insecurity skyrocketed in COVID, so the need went up. It's not like people started showing up because all of a sudden they were full.
Right.
So,
right.
I'm
curious, Alex, what kind of your impression is so far? I think I kind of purposely didn't talk about it much throughout the week so we could just see it in real time here. But I'm curious what.
Well, I think it's a lot. It's I didn't realize, I guess, that it was such a massive operation. I also didn't realize that one building was servicing all the neighboring counties. I thought it would be like multiple facilities like this just for Lucas County.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's just what people think is like, there's places set up, they're taken care of, but really that's not a lot. Like, it's a big distribution center, but the fact that there's one for however many hundred thousands of people, that's nuts.
That was one of the biggest things that hit me right off the bat, Alex, is that when Brittany told us that there are 13 food banks in Ohio.
Yeah, in Ohio. I thought you were going to say Northwest Ohio.
I did that. That's what I thought. I was like, okay, in Northwest Ohio. And then she was like, no, in all of Ohio.
That's insane. When you have giant cities like Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, Cleveland especially. I mean, the poverty there is enormous.
Right.
But yeah, that was shocking to me. Another shocking thing that Sharon was talking about is kind of the perception of people coming in.
Yeah.
It is kind of sad that people think, well, they're working a job, or they're just coming in here because they don't want to work a job. But still, like, imagine being the sole breadwinner and your girlfriend or your wife or your husband or whoever is at the house with 1, 2, 3 kids. What are you going to do? Say you're making minimum wage for a 5-person family, a 4-person family. You have to rely on these resources.
Minimum wage for yourself.
Right, exactly.
You got to be
you can't
really
even get by with yourself.
Yeah.
Well, and you don't
Yeah,
even have
so
to do that. I think you know, if people are taken care of and are feeling solid about the resources, they don't find themselves here or
Right.
find
mhm,
themselves at a soup kitchen. So the individual journey from I have this need, I can feel it and I sense it, to how do I fulfill it, to showing up at the door
Mm.
is a journey itself that needs recognition.
You know, that's
You know,
actually a really good point that should help dispel that. As you pointed out earlier, John, we're on high alert for cheating, right? People
right.
taking advantage of things. But just like Alex pointed out with the person in the rain, it's the same thing. You've got to be at a point in life to come to that realization. Because I can tell you right now, I couldn't tell you an address of a food bank or a pantry. I don't know where the Claver House is at. I know Sharon told us the crossroads that are near it. I don't.
Mhm,
Bancroft and Detroit, right?
Yeah.
yep.
I've never had. If you don't have that food insecurity, you're not looking to be a part of this process. I can tell you that it's not. This is rough. You know, this is a. You've got to be in a you know. Potentially very desperate place to
Yeah,
even go through those steps mentally, recognize it, seek out where they're at, and then go. You know.
yeah.
So
And then
that,
you're relying on your community. You're relying on the goodness of other people in your community to keep you and your family alive, pretty much,
Yeah.
so
which
yes,
is extremely humbling. It has to be.
yeah. So there's that understanding, um, for sure. But I also caught a taco. Aria, yes,
Arya's catching Pokemon over there.
yeah, but yeah. You can keep going. I lost my train of thought.
Now, I guess we'll kind of continue a little bit with these pictures here. So what we're looking at there are the
Yeah.
uh, bay doors where the
Oh, real quick, I caught it. So there's that understanding, you know, that level of compassion of, you know, that would, I kind of maybe fall under giving the person the benefit of the doubt, right? But I think there also just needs to be an understanding that there aren't systems in nature and in society in which the cheaters are the majority.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
very
never
true.
the case. The rest of nature and the world stomps it out when it happens. Like the need, again, this is largely servicing, as most of our safety net programs do in this country, the elderly, people that have
Veterans.
disabilities, and children. Like if you
Yeah.
took those three groups, right, that's going to account for most of your.
Yeah, an overwhelming majority.
So
Are there?
then,
Yeah.
you know, keep going.
I don't know. You're good.
I was just going to say, so it's kind of what we talked about beforehand, maybe offline, about just donations and money and giving and whatnot. At the end of the day, who cares if some small percentage of the population, like it's always going to be a small percentage of the population. Who cares if that is happening?
Right.
You're
Yeah.
really upset that someone got one of those bags of pasta and peanut butter and cereal and some canned fruit? Is that bothering you?
Right.
Yeah, like
Why?
Sharon was saying, some people will come in and grab 3, 4 bags, and some of the people would get upset about it. It's like, they're probably doing it for a reason. They might
Right.
they probably have kids at home, you know, and kids eat a lot.
Right. Maybe
But
that
people
person
see
is
it
picking it up for
a friend.
their parents who you know what I
Yeah.
mean. You don't
Or
know.
their grandparent. You don't know.
You
You don't
don't
know
know.
somebody's situation.
You can
Yeah, so
only.
And
no aspect of that, even if you accept the nature that some people are going to cheat the system, there's no aspect or no place on the continuum where you would go, oh, well, that person, you know, we're going to fight against this process, or we're going to deem these people as unworthy of these resources.
yeah.
Even if you accept the nature of that cheating exists, who cares?
Right.
Like
Right.
that's
Like Jordan, I think it was last week you paid for everybody else's coffee behind you.
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing. It's like you don't even know what those people look like.
All right, they could all be
Let
way better off than
alone-
I am. Who knows?
Yeah, or they could be complete awful people.
Right.
You know, if you pay for 10 people's coffee or 5 people's coffee, it's 9 times out of 10 one of them is going to be not deserving of it, possibly. You know, I don't know, but how is that any different from giving somebody that is standing on the corner some money? Because who cares what they do with the money?
Right.
Just like you don't know what's going on with the money that's going towards their coffee. You don't know who that's going to. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And you just think about the breadth of this problem, that we're not just talking about hunger. And again, it routinely is distributing 17 million pounds of food. That's
Right.
just the food side. That's not talking about their 10-year relationship of providing children clothes and books, right?
Right.
And education and
Cooking lessons.
cooking, right? None of that's included. And again, Sharon illuminated the next step of that, and it doesn't get any prettier.
No.
Right. There's actually less. It's all volunteers at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least in her at the Claver House, which I'm sure is how it is at any church group. I'm sure they're
Has
not.
to be.
I'm sure they're not paying their constituents to do this job.
If they are paying, it's not very well.
Right. They're probably paying them in like a free meal.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, I mean, well, we'll go through a couple more of these pictures of the facility. What we're looking at here, the bay doors, this is where the semis that are bringing in food to this organization essentially drop it, and it's unloaded.
Yep.
This is out. This first door to the left there, opening it up, is basically a semi-trailer that's a freezer. So that way, or a refrigerator. So they can store things and keep things there. That's I'm assuming that's always there. It was parked. There was no vehicle attached to it. It was just sat there.
She said if there's a need
It's
for
right
it
there.
or what have you, there tends to be one there. So
Yeah, that's definitely a permanent fixture.
Yeah.
With the pallets stacked underneath it.
Yep. And yeah, I think that, so this is their main building that their office is in. Yeah, I mean, it's in a place, it's in a part of the town, this is another thing that John and I kind of talked about leaving. It's in a part of town where, like, I've lived in Toledo for 28 of my 29 years alive, right? Well, 25, I guess I went to Cincinnati for a couple of years, but whatever. I've never been to this part of town, and I had no idea that this would exist. So when you think about having to depend on something like this, yeah, of course there's people that live semi near it, but it's not in a populated area, you know?
Right.
So it's
just like you were talking about, if you don't have the need for something like that, you would never notice it. You would never know where it's at.
Right.
And it's not like, it's not necessarily not in a populated area. It's in a part of town that has zero attention.
Yeah.
And zero resources. So
For sure.
One thing, as you drive closer to or away from this, the amount of civilization increases or decreases, right? Like when you go near this place, all of a sudden you start to see, obviously, boarded up buildings, an utter lack of employment opportunities, and it's everything you'd expect in that sense. I think most of us have heard that story and can probably picture it if we live in or around a city of any kind. But as you drive away from this, the opposite occurs, right? So when you can see that reality and you can hear some of these stories, that's the refrigeration storage that they had, by the way, right in that picture.
Yeah.
So if that gets full or what have you, then they use that truck out there as well. But if you can see that reality, it becomes easier to picture, right? That the need's actually real. But I think what the biggest problem is that people don't even know that. Again, I didn't know what any of those government programs were. I didn't even know this organization existed until I looked it up. And even when I looked it up, I didn't know a fraction of what they did or what it was.
Yeah.
And even when I did that, I didn't know where it was, right? So it's largely a problem of ignorance and a lack of attention, right? So the minimum we can do is try to provide a bit of that story and a bit of that information. And this obviously doesn't do it justice, because this is, you're looking at boxes, right? I mean, you know what a person looks like when they're eating, and you can picture that in your head, but this is just food. Like,
Essentials.
yeah, I mean, we're talking about giving people food, 17 million pounds a year. And we have 13 of these in all of Ohio. You know, that one of them is distributing 17 million pounds annually.
And it's criminally understaffed and under there's not, the attention given to it is so minimal. I mean, when I say it became immediately obvious, before we took a look at any of the operational stuff, when we walked into this office building, we walked through their conference room first on the way to a where we went upstairs and looked at some of the senior projects. Their conference room consists of some card tables, a super old TV that probably had a VCR built into it, and there's just literally nothing that is of really high quality for the people that are working there to utilize from an efficiency standpoint and to communicate and that sort of thing. So
yeah, and I think a general way to put it is there's not enough resources coming in to efficiently maximize potential. Like, all of that relies on the people working there, which are have a lack of resources, and they're undervalued just objectively, they're undervalued. And yeah, a lack of attention, a lack of resources, it falls on their shoulders, and then their ingenuity. So again, had that one individual not been there that had a connection with that SIFT organization, you'd have had even a diminished capacity. You wouldn't have had the garden idea, or the science experiment that took place in this Eat Right Academy, which probably lended itself toward, because I think this is funded by a government grant. So the fact that you had someone in there that was able to provide that extra meaning for the building and for the funds is also worthwhile. But that is all just because that individual made that happen, or had the ability to make that happen.
Yeah.
One last thing that kind of stuck out to me that Sharon said that I was thinking about, and Jordan, you touched on it briefly, is I didn't realize that if you work for one of these places or one of these facilities or something, like especially a soup kitchen, you're making food on your own time at your house, like making soup, making jam that you can bring with you to give to people. So you're not only are you spending time at the place doing your thing there, however many hours a week, 8 hours a week, but you're taking time at home to prep to help these people. I mean, that's something that I think everybody can learn from, is take some time out of the day completely for somebody else. And that's what really hit me about that.
Yep.
Yeah. Which of course that's happening. It's like, yeah, of course it doesn't go from ingredients to a meal, right? So but that's another step that you're just ignorant of. You don't.
Right.
It's, if you're not dealing with this either from the giving end or the receiving end, you don't even think about it. And yeah, so again, the completely voluntarily staffed, primarily or almost exclusively in some cases by retired folks.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you're young, you're able-bodied, and you're curious of any kind, even if you're not curious, give it a shot. There are again, because this is being done by your elders,
Right.
Yep.
and out of the goodness of their hearts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
a very, very small staff,
it's kind of surprising to me, well, a little surprising, that a church community isn't just elderly. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
But
Yep.
the only people in the church community that are taking time out of their weeks are people over 50, 60 years old. When I
Yeah.
know for a fact kids that are going, or teenagers or mid-20s that are going to church, they could be doing, I don't
Right.
know, two times as much work, because
Well,
you can,
on that point, I think that's very important, but I think I can speak for the three of us. We're definitely guilty of the same thing.
sure.
So what I was kind of thinking about as a problem, or as how do you combat that? How do you get people involved? It's like, this isn't in front of you. This problem does not have
Right.
the attention on it that it needs. Why isn't every single public school, why isn't this part of graduating high school? Resources could come from every public school in the area. Why not?
And it would be constant, because there's always kids going to the school. There's
Right.
there's always a sophomore, junior class.
Yeah.
They could be volunteering.
You
I
immediately,
don't know. That's a
overwhelmingly
good point.
shine light on the problem and awareness of it. And yeah, there's going to be the majority of the people going there that don't stick around or don't do anything else, and they just do it because they have to. But maybe you get a small fraction that come up with a good idea to help, or they find a flaw in an efficiency that helps everybody, or they stick around like Sharon did for 9-10 years because something's stuck with them, right?
Well,
Right.
this is just three dudes talking about off the top of their head ways to fix this, right? So, again, this place is servicing a lot of veterans, and the government is aware of this because their food is also coming from government programs, right? So why can't we just take the next step and use some of that budget to actually just pay these people a decent wage?
Yeah, right. Seriously,
Because I didn't get
man.
to ask them about benefits, but usually
Yeah.
jobs
Probably
that
not good.
at
Probably
minimum
not.
wage aren't providing benefits.
Yeah.
So even if they have fantastic benefits, if you're at or around minimum wage with the best benefits in the world, that's unacceptable. But we can probably assume that's not the case.
Yeah. Very safely, I would say.
So that's one way. You could also make the National Guard and the reserves a mainstay. This problem is we have data for it. We've known about it forever, at least from a government standpoint. They have, general hunger estimations. They know where this need is, right? Because they're obviously supplying government funds.
Right.
Where's the resources for manpower? Because you can't just bring in the National Guard and have those individuals working alongside these 13 people. Because like I said, hey, we're doing the same job, but they pay you a good salary with good benefits, and I get nothing.
Right.
That's not acceptable.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could even have a veterans program where veterans, rather than starving, you could, if you have money and wages set aside for people doing this work, rather than being on the receiving end of this line, they could be working them.
Exactly.
Being paid to work them.
Yep.
It's, I don't know. It was a lot,
Again, think about the whole chain. The distribution, the truck gets there. Those people, they're not self-driving, right? So someone's got to drive the truck. You got people loading it. You got people unloading it. You got people moving it when it's here. And then the resources are being moved throughout the facility, and they're being, so you got people checking lists, making lists, executing these processes. And then it goes to where it's actually needed, right?
Right.
There's manpower needed in overwhelming amounts at all rungs of that ladder, right?
Yeah. It's,
And
go ahead, Alex.
One final thought before we have to, before we all have to go. Hey, puppy. I feel like this. Hey, what's up, dude? I feel like this and YouTube and influencers and streaming and stuff like that. Like this would be the perfect platform to bring these kind of issues and these kind of places to people's forefronts. Imagine a streamer has 250,000 daily watchers or weekly watchers, and he brings up this issue, or she brings up this issue, and now you have even 1% of those people in their local community be like, "Huh, maybe I could give it a shot." And say 1% of them sticks around. You know, that's still a decent amount of help
Right.
that could make a huge change in these places.
Yeah, there's a massive awareness gap here. There's no question.
So that's just my 2 cents. Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
if we can get this out there and you're a person with one of those followings, it's your turn, man, or woman, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Take it up, give it a shot, put it out there, and obviously we need to keep doing the same as well. So
Yeah, for sure. Maybe I don't know. We'll decide on what we do next week, but this is something that definitely needs some more attention. So one thing,
Absolutely.
hey, one final thought: if anybody does watch this and they do want to donate or give something to the organization, one of the questions that we asked was, what's something that makes a big impact on the people that need the food when they come for a meal and they see a certain item? What is it that they get really excited about and makes a big and has an impact on them? And fresh meat and produce, they said they get people are really happy if they can get a pack of chicken, some ground beef to make some burgers, and fresh produce. So not lobster tails and filet mignon, everybody. Ground beef and some chicken
Beef.
are making these people's weeks much better. So yeah, I think collectively as a whole, everybody, we need to do better on this. There's certainly there's easy ways to improve this. So, but yeah, we'll get together again next week. We'll talk offline about what we kind of want to do then. But everybody that did tune in at one point or another, appreciate you. Let us know on social media or wherever. If you have any experience volunteering or organizations that you've been involved with or ideas that you have.
Yep. Shoot them on over. Let us know.
All right, guys.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, you guys.
Have a good week, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Take care of yourself.
See ya.
See ya.